This evening's graduation address will be given by Kerry Prendergast. Kerry was Mayor of Wellington for 9 years up until 2010 and is a former Vice President of Local Government New Zealand. Currently, Kerry is Chair of the Environmental Protection Authority, Tourism New Zealand, the New Zealand International Arts Festival Trust, and the Wellington Jazz Music Festival Trust. Kerry holds a Master of Business Administration and is a distinguished alumna of Victoria University. In 2011, she was made a Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit for services to local government. She is a Director of Kirkcaldie and Staines and WorkSafe New Zealand and a Trustee of the New Zealand Community Trust, the Endangered Species Foundation, and the Wellington Free Ambulance Board. Kerry is also a board member of the Motu Foundation and Phoenix Football Club and is on the advisory boards of the Office of the Auditor General and FishHead magazine. It is with pleasure that I now invite Kerry Prendergast to give the graduation address.
Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, academic staff, distinguished guests, graduands, proud parents, ladies and gentlemen. I feel great pleasure and am honoured to be talking to you today, a group of young people preparing to take on the world. Amongst you will be future leaders, inventors, entrepreneurs. I wonder which of you, and I bet you do too. I hope that each of you is setting out with the highest of hopes and aspirations to be the very best you can be. Thinking about what might inspire or at the least interest you, I decided to take you through the values that have helped define my life to date. I call them my 5 C's, and I'd like to talk to the headings confidence, courage, commitment, challenge, and change. So confidence. I came from an atypical 50s family. Dad, a civil engineer and scientist, my mother working, the eldest of 4 children, the boys expected to attend university, but the girls to do nursing, teaching, or a trade like hairdressing. I chose nursing and blossomed. I was top in all subjects at the end of the 3-year course and subsequently the intensive care diploma. I was married at 19, halfway through my nursing training, and would you believe it, in this current age, I needed parental approval to leave the nurse's home to get married. Coming from a background of low self-esteem, the profession gave me a lot of confidence, but I was still perceived by some as just a nurse. So courage. In 1976, my then husband and I returned from our OE in the United Kingdom. I then did midwifery training at St Helens in Wellington, my career for the next 25 years. However, I still felt the need for a tertiary education. So in 1978, after the birth of our first daughter, I began a law degree at Victoria. Since my teens, I had aimed to be a Member of Parliament, probably wishing to go one better than my father, a councillor and later Deputy Mayor in Kapiti. A law degree, I felt, would make me more electable. But in 1979, our second child, a son, was born and died shortly after birth. Despite working as a midwife, I just could not find expert advice or help through this tragedy. So I wrote and published my own booklet for doctors, for nurses, for midwives, for plunket nurses and the community. And I spent the next 16 years working as a voluntary grief counsellor. The law degree idea was put on hold. Commitment. I stood for and won a seat on the Tawa Borough Council in 1986. Tawa meetings were held at 5:30, and when I complained that I had 3 young children to get to bed, I was told you shouldn't have stood if you couldn't make the meetings. Tawa joined Wellington City in 1989, and I was one of their 2 elected councillors. From 1995 to 2001, I was Wellington City's Deputy Mayor, becoming its Mayor from 2001 to 2010. I was also, from 2006 to 2010, the Vice President of Local Government New Zealand. And altogether, I gave 24 years to local government and loved every moment. I loved meeting people, the politics, the lobbying, the passion, and the excitement. Challenge. Even as Deputy Mayor, I still did not perceive myself the equal of those with a tertiary qualification. So in 2001, I began an MBA at this university whilst continuing my full-time maternity load and being Deputy Mayor. I had announced that I would retire from council, my idea being to study, but the then Mayor, Mark Blumsky, decided to stand down, so I stood for the mayoralty and won in October of that year, and I stopped delivering babies. Stubbornly, I carried on with my MBA. With only 2 out of the 18 papers completed by then, I started taking up to 3 papers per semester. So my total work hours jumped to about 100 per week. My lack of computer literacy meant everything was done in longhand, and I had to pay someone to type them for me. The degree took 2.5 years, but I felt able finally to hold my head up amongst my peers. Change. In October 2010, I lost the mayoralty, and this was a crushing blow. After a 24-year commitment, my job finished that Saturday night at midnight. The king is dead, long live the king. Not only had I lost a job I loved passionately, but I'd lost my income, including an office, my staff, and a car. As quickly as I could, I had to refocus. I needed a strategy for the way forward. I needed to learn basic skills like how to use a computer. Should I choose a job offshore? Should I work full-time? The answer was no to both. We have several grandchildren, so we decided that I should explore governance roles. Almost immediately, I was offered the role of setting up and then chairing the Environmental Protection Authority, and I began rebuilding my career. The EPA, which is New Zealand's national environmental regulator, looks after the exclusive economic zone, consenting of nationally significant projects and the emissions trading scheme. But then tragedy struck again. 5 months after my defeat at the polls, I lost my beautiful son in a horse riding accident, 4 weeks after his 30th birthday. In terms of change to one's life, such an event is instant and appallingly permanent. I will never be the person I once was. Such an event puts your whole life into perspective. Now, as you've heard, I also chair the New Zealand Tourism Board and the New Zealand Festival. I'm on a number of other boards and advisory bodies, and soon I'll be on Victoria University's foundation. I've taken a mix of profit and not-for-profit organisations, and you've heard some of those read out as part of my introduction. I now need to slow down a bit, according to my husband. Having climbed Mount Kilimanjaro 2 years ago, we now intend to walk Spain's El Camino in September, 800 kilometres in 32 days. Do things before we're only good for cruise boats is our motto. So as you can see, I've had my amazing highs and devastating lows, and so will all of you. What you must do is make the ups really count. Don't ever let the down events stop you from striving to be the very best you can be. You only get one life, so make the most of it. Leave here with your own dreams and hopefully with high self-esteem, with courage and with confidence, committed to confronting the challenges and always ready to embrace the massive changes your generation will meet. Thank you for listening to me and good luck.